Am I the antagonist for telling my parent off about their help? For a little background, I have pets, and when traveling, which happens frequently, I often hire a pet sitter to take care of them. My mother has offered to stay at my place and look after the pets so that I can save some money. Honestly, my relationship with my mother isn't the best, but every time I say I prefer the pet sitter, she is sad that I don't trust her. Eventually I relented, and she stayed over for 1 week during the past Christmas while I traveled. Back then, she decided to prune a flowering tree in my garden, which was over 2 meters tall because she said it was dead. It wasn't. She basically cut half of it off, and many of its branches died, and now they are dead. Before that, they were still flowering on top. I told her off back then and explained that she should have asked before doing things in my garden and house in general. She seemed to understand, but I still hired the pet sitter in the meantime, as I didn't want anything like this to happen again. My mother was once again sad I didn't ask her to stay over, so last week when I traveled, I asked her to stay here and look after the pets. Before staying over, she asked if I wanted her to mow the lawn, which was overgrown, but I didn't mind. To which I said no, and that I would get to it once I came back and the weather was better. Fast forward to today, when I arrived. She did, in fact, mow the lawn and also threw away a series of branches sticks I had collected over several weeks and organized by size in the garden for a project I was working on. This is the second time she has decided to do whatever she wanted in my house without me asking for it. Today I told her off about it and said she will never again stay over at my place because she can't be trusted. She complained that she was just trying to help and told me she would never again do anything to help me. When I asked her why she didn't listen to me when I said not about the lawn or asked about the branches, she told me I never said anything about the lawn, which I did numerous times, and that she thought the branches were to be thrown away. I basically told her to leave the house and that she couldn't be trusted, and that was it. Am I the a-hole for telling her off? Or should I just be thankful for the help, even though I didn't want it or ask for it? Well, it sounds like your mother took the phrase "make yourself at home" a bit too literally. It's commendable that she wanted to help, but it seems like she may have gone a tad overboard with the gardening activities. Maybe next time, leave a laminated list of do's and don'ts for house-sitting tasks. In all seriousness, you're not the a-hole for setting boundaries and expressing your feelings about the situation. Ultimately, it's your space, and it's important to feel comfortable and respected in your own home. Your mother's intentions may have been good, but communication is key in these situations. It's a tricky balance between appreciating the gesture and maintaining your autonomy. Perhaps a heartfelt conversation about boundaries and expectations could prevent similar misunderstandings in the future. Am I the antagonist for telling my twin sister she will never fit in with us? I, 29 years old, have 4 siblings. Mark. Me and Eva are fraternal twins. Our mother was a stay-at-home mom, but she was emotionally absent. Growing up, our father was very hard on us. He wanted his first son to be a doctor, so Mark had to work all the time. He had Josh learn violin at 4 years old and made him play for hours. Tony had to be a lawyer. I had the chance to be a beautiful kid, and I participated in beauty pageants starting at 3 years old. Eva was free of this because she wasn't beautiful, and my father didn't think a woman could do much anyway. She always had liberty and could do whatever she wanted without pressure on her shoulders. She could have friends, had no care about her grades, and didn't have to work her butt off every day. We are not proud of it, but we tended to exclude her since she was slacking off while we were working so hard. She also was a problematic teen. She skipped class, hung around with a bad crowd, and drank. She even disappeared for a week without notice when we were 15, stating after that she wanted to get away with her boyfriend for a road trip, while I wasn't even allowed to leave the house for a night, because my parents wanted to make sure I did my work, and would only eat what I was allowed to. Eva would throw tantrums, saying she was neglected and no one would care if she disappeared. I was enraged with her because she never realized the chance she had, and we only grew apart from that point. After high school, I went far away and started working as a makeup artist. I eloped at 26 with Eli, 27 years old, and never looked back. Last month, our father passed away, and my siblings and I went to the family home for the funeral. We stayed for 3 weeks and reconnected a lot. Mark had a breakdown at 23 from all the pressure and barely recovered. He is now happier, got a job as a tech in a lab, is married, and has 2 little kids. Josh stopped violin and is a drummer and piano teacher, and Tony is a public defender. Eva chose to be a social worker. It was a bit weird with Eva since we hadn't seen each other for years and gave up contact too. She once again tried to dismiss what we went through, saying that she was as abused as us, even though that is nowhere near true. One evening she completely flipped out on us, calling us jerks and saying that we were like our father and excluded her. She kept going about how our parents never took an interest in her, neither did we, and that she went through hell thinking she was worthless. Mark started to cry, so I took Eva out and lashed out at her, saying she was the jerk for being jealous of our misery, and that she will never fit in with us because she never got abused, and it was insane of her to claim she had. She left that night and didn't apologize to any of us. When I went home, I cried a lot and told everything to my husband, expecting him to support me, but he said I should be the one to call and apologize to my sister. So, am I the jerk? It sounds like your family dynamics were quite the drama-filled saga. It's like you all were characters in a reality show about childhood ambitions gone wrong. But in all seriousness, it seems like there are some deep-rooted issues that need to be addressed. While it's understandable that growing up with such high expectations and pressure could have been tough for you and your siblings, it's important to recognize that everyone copes with that kind of environment differently. Eva's experiences, even if they may not align with yours, are still valid. It's clear that there's a lot of hurt and resentment within your family, and lashing out at Eva may not have been the most productive way to handle the situation. Maybe it's worth considering reaching out to her and having an open and honest conversation about how you both felt growing up. At the end of the day, family is family, and it's important to try to work through these issues together. Apologizing and trying to understand each other's perspectives could be a step in the right direction towards healing those wounds. Good luck navigating this emotional roller coaster. Am I the antagonist for throwing out my sibling and their partner's belongings? For a backstory, I, 21 female, rent out a council house. My sister, Jane, 28 female, and her boyfriend, Tom, 30 male's lease had ended and had nowhere to go. With 2 spare empty bedrooms, I took them in no hesitation on agreement that I'd look for housing and help with bills as council tax goes up more with the more people in your home. They lived here for a year and a half and made my life an absolute living hell. They never cleaned their mess, never flushed the toilet or empty or rinse out the bathtub. They would leave moldy dishes, feed my dog things dogs shouldn't eat. He has been to the vets is fine, and worstly he smokes in my house, supposedly medicinal. I work full-time in a nursery, so obviously that could cost me my job. And across nearly 2 years I only received £200 about £8 30 pence a month. He'd done nothing but smoke, eat, make mess and play games. Anyways, they ended up staying long overdue their welcome, and they moved out around 2 months ago. However, despite the countless efforts to persuade them to get the rest of their stuff, I was ignored. And the state they've left my house in is ridiculous. I had no knives, fork, spoon. In their bedroom alone there were 7 plates. I only have 8, 6 bowls, 4 mugs and 10 glasses, a lot of them containing mold. I was left with no food in the fridge or freezer, which I was too tired to argue over because that is all I've done with them. Since they've moved out, they still have my 2 spare bedrooms fully occupied and have blanked me many times when I asked them to come get it all. Last week was my last straw. I put everything in black bags and threw them in my garden. I sent a message that said, "I'm so tired of this. All your stuff is in the front garden. You and Tom are nothing but pigs and have done nothing but walk all over me and the kindness I showed the both of you by putting a roof over your heads. You're no longer welcome in my home, and I hope you treat your own with more respect and dignity. You're 28 and 30, grow up and stop living like you're incapable by age. You're 28 and 30, grow up and stop living like you're incapable soap. Now I've been getting blown up by most of my family telling me how I was wrong, and that I hurt their feelings, and that this is impacting them mentally. The only person who's sided with me is my mom because she says she knows that she raised Jane better than to live like that, and for other reasons I won't go into. So I don't know, AmITheA. Your sister and her boyfriend sound like they turned your house into a real-life episode of Hoarders. It's like they saw your generosity as an invitation to start a rival restaurant in your kitchen. You were basically running a free bed and breakfast, except you were the one doing all the cooking and cleaning. At this rate, they were probably planning to open a mold-infested cafe in one of the spare bedrooms. It was a good call to evict them from Hotel Freeload, because it sounds like they were treating your mansion like a pigsty, and feeding your dog contraband treats? That's crossing the line from being a bad house guest to endangering a beloved family member. Now, your family needs to stop acting like you single-handedly ruined Thanksgiving. They should be offering to help you clean up the wreckage left behind by your sister and her boyfriend, not blaming you for calling them out on their shenanigans. Stand your ground. You did what needed to be done to reclaim your home from the squatters. You're not an asshole, you're just a landlord who finally served some long overdue eviction notices. Am I the antagonist for abandoning my family, dropping my mom's stuff on the street and walking off? Am I the asshole for dropping my mom's shoppings, nothing breakable, on the street, telling her to go home alone and walking off? I live around 300 kilometers away from my parents, and I'm currently visiting. I spent the day with my mom in a nearby city, doing some shopping for her and my dad. While walking back to the train station, she started questioning me about my future plans, which will include moving away to another continent. It basically all came down to her starting an argument about why I would want to leave my home country, which has been on my mind for years, by the way, and blamed it on my closer surroundings. Sure, I've had friendships fall apart, people becoming more flaky and so on in the past year. Work has been stressful, my education suffered, and I dislike the city I live in, but it's the bigger picture for me. Simply moving to another city won't solve my issues, and she doesn't seem to understand that. I've outgrown the mentality of most of my fellow countrymen and women, and I enjoy living in my other language. I've already experienced it, and it's clear to me that I don't want to stay here. She said I'll be all alone, and I told her that I'm well aware of this. She said, well, if that's what you want. She can't understand why I'm leaving my family, and she threatened to never visit me. She said something like, you don't want us, so we'll act accordingly. I clarified that I'm not abandoning anybody. I'm simply moving away to build a better life in a place where I feel like I belong. I asked her what difference it would make to her if I moved to city XYZ in our country, or a different place thousands of kilometers away. She said, "You could just drive if something comes up," to which I responded, "Why would I drive? What's the difference between trains and cars now and planes in the future?" She repeated that I'm abandoning my family, and she stated that she'll never visit me. That's when I dropped her shoppings. I was carrying a bag of shirts we bought for my dad, told her, "You can go home alone," and walked off. She shouted after me, "But you have the ticket," and I replied, "I know," as I continued walking. We were taking the train and she was nearby, so if anyone checked the ticket, I would have told them that there's a lady in her 60s in a white coat on my ticket. It's a group ticket on my phone and I would explain to the conductor if needed, but I'm just really disappointed. I'm a grown adult woman who may not always act perfectly, but in her eyes, nothing I do is ever right or good enough. In this situation, it seems like tensions were running high and feelings were hurt on both sides. It's understandable that you want to pursue your dreams and live where you feel most comfortable. However, dropping your mom shopping and walking off might not have been the most diplomatic move. It's important to communicate your feelings and perspective to your mom, even if she doesn't fully understand or agree. It sounds like you've thought long and hard about your decision, and that should be respected. But hey, at least you made sure she had the train ticket, right? Misunderstandings happen, but hopefully you both can have a conversation to work through this and find a middle ground. Remember, even in difficult times, a little humor and understanding can go a long way. Am I the antagonist for being upset that my birthday cake was eaten before I even got to blow out my candles? Yesterday was my female 20th birthday. I spent the first half of my day getting my amazing dog groomed, and came home because my family and I were going to have a birthday dinner for me. I spent an hour waiting on them not knowing they were ready, and my grandma yelled at me saying they were ready. So we went to the cafe. The whole time at the cafe she, grandmother, was complaining about where we were seated and making a scene, embarrassing me and a couple of other family members. I had a small meal when getting my dog groomed, so I wasn't too hungry. I didn't finish my food and said I wasn't ready for my cake as I didn't have the appetite for something so sweet. I would have felt ill. Already did because the chicken fried steak I got at the cafe we were eating at wasn't sitting well. So she got after me in front of everyone saying, "Oh, you probably ate, it's your fault." So I had a sheepish smile and said, "I didn't eat too much, just some chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant next to the groomers." To which she was like, "We can cut it at home." I personally was okay with that. So we went home after eating and we got a couple of drinks. I had one strawberry margarita and they were claiming I was drunk. I was in my room as I was tired as I had woken up before everyone in the house had, and my stomach wasn't sitting well. My mom kept asking me if I was ready to cut my cake and I said, "No, not now, my stomach hurts. I don't think I'd be able to enjoy it." So she took it upon herself to cut my cake and now half of it's gone. I didn't even get to blow my own candles. I didn't know that they had eaten my cake until I was eating the rest of my chicken fried steak for dinner today. I thought maybe we would do the silly birthday song and candle blowing tonight, but then my mom asked if I wanted some cake. I turned and saw half of my cake was gone, so I said, "I all cut the cake without me?" To which my grandmother yelled at me, and both were claiming I was just in my room drunk. I had only eaten a couple of bites of my chicken fried steak up to this point and put it back in the fridge, tears rolling down my face. "You all can have this if you want it," to which I got yelled at again because I was drunk last night and it's all my fault. My first birthday not being classified as a teenager, and I feel it's been ruined for me. She's still talking poorly about me in the other room as I'm typing this. Am I the issue? Happy belated 20th birthday. It sounds like your birthday celebration took an unexpected turn, with your grandma causing a scene at the cafe and your family not quite understanding your lack of appetite. The cake cutting debacle is just the icing on the cake, pun intended. It's understandable that you feel disappointed and frustrated about how things unfolded. Your family's reactions may have been off-key, but it doesn't make you the issue. Your feelings are valid, and you had every right to want to enjoy your cake-blowing moment. It's unfortunate that the birthday vibes got derailed by misunderstandings and miscommunications. Remember that celebrations can be chaotic, but it's important to focus on the positive moments and the people who matter most. Hopefully, next year's birthday will be smoother sailing, maybe with a full cake and no unnecessary drama. Wishing you better birthday memories ahead. Aita for leaving my partner's house after they insinuated I was trying to get their friend's attention. My boyfriend made plans to go out to dinner last night. It was a nice day, so I was trying to find a nice dress to wear. Most of my dresses are not casual, and we were not going somewhere fancy. I did not want to be overdressed, so I decided not to wear a dress. As I'm finishing getting ready, my boyfriend calls and asks if he can invite his friend. I said sure since his friend is going through a messy divorce and figured he needed a distraction. All was good when I got to my boyfriend's house. As I'm waiting for him to finish getting ready, I start looking at dresses online since I felt I didn't have any casual ones early. To make small talk, I mentioned to my boyfriend that I'm looking at dresses. He immediately says, "Why? You wouldn't be wanting to wear a dress if it were just us two." I'm more of a jeans and shirt type of girl, but do like to wear dresses when the days are nice. I got annoyed and asked what that was supposed to mean, and it's ridiculous that he would say that. He didn't respond. As I'm still waiting for him to finish, I'm very offended that he would insinuate that. I have never given him any indication that I would do something like that. I have never cheated. I don't flirt with anyone or do anything that would disrespect my boyfriend. As I'm waiting and thinking, I decide I don't want to go anymore because my boyfriend just made it uncomfortable with his comment. He sits down and says, "What?" I proceeded to tell him I'm offended by his comment and he must think very little of me, that it's wrong since I have never given him a reason to think I would do that. He proceeds to insist he's right by saying, "You never dress nice when it's just me and you. You never do." This offends me more because I have worn dresses several times in the past, but since it has been cold the last few months, I've stuck to pants. However, I wore a dress for Easter and reminded him of that. He still kept insisting he was right about me, only wanting to wear a dress to look good for his friend. At this point, I'm offended that he would think that of me, and that he said I never dress nice when I feel like I do make an effort to dress nice for him. I just don't wear dresses. I told him I didn't want to go and have him accusing me of trying to get his friend's attention. I told him I'd drop him off and leave. He said I didn't have to do that and I didn't have to stay if I didn't want to be there. I stood up and told him how wrong he was for thinking that and that he was a jerk, and I walked out. I hadn't heard from him since I left. Am I overreacting? I don't feel like I am. Wow, sounds like your boyfriend really put his foot in it. Making you feel like you needed to dress up for his friend is a serious faux pas. It's clear that you felt disrespected and unappreciated in that moment. From what you've described, it seems like you were genuinely hurt by his comments and felt the need to stand up for yourself. It's important in a relationship to feel understood and respected, and it sounds like you were not feeling that way last night. Let's hope your boyfriend realizes his mistake and apologizes. But hey, on the bright side, at least you got to show off that Easter dress one more time, right? Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.